right, please take your seats. Please take your seats. I need people from Nersa, really, those ones outside, to get people seated so that we can start. The Nersa staff that is sitting outside is the one that's supposed to assist.
They're disappearing.
And we moved on to Port Elizabeth. We are now in Durban, and the first day in Durban, it was yesterday, and we've had a number of stakeholders who have given us their views and proposals and the things that Nersa needs to take into consideration with regards to the two applications submitted by ESCOM. Just to remind everybody that we are soliciting views of different stakeholders with regards to the applications filed by ESCOM with Nersa. The two applications that are the subject of this hearing is the regulatory clearing account for the 5th and the final year of the MYPD 3 for the year 2017-2018. ESCOM incurred certain costs during the provision of electricity in that year, and those costs were above, and some of them were lower than those that were allowed, not necessarily approved, but allowed in our decision. And ESCOM is requesting Nersa to permit it to recover some of those costs that they have incurred. So that is the first application. The second application is a forward-looking application. ESCOM is requesting certain revenue to enable it to produce and supply electricity in the next 3 years. So that is the MYPD 4 application. And that is the one that also we are requesting stakeholders to give us their views, scrutinize those costs, and make proposals as to what is it that Nersa should pay attention to. We appreciate those views. We appreciate further information and evidence that we need to take into account before we take the final decision on these two applications. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you the panel today. The hearings are going to be, or this hearing is going to be chaired by myself. My name is Nomfundo Maseti. I am the full-time regulator member responsible for electricity and gas at Nersa, and I'm with my colleagues here as the members of the energy regulator. Starting from my right, I have Mr. Christopher Foley, who is the CEO of Nersa, and he is the member of the electricity subcommittee. On my immediate left, I have Mr. Muzi Vukile Kize, who is a member primarily responsible for petroleum pipelines at Nersa, and he is also the member of the electricity subcommittee. On my far left, I have Mr. Kumbulani Sibanda, who is the member of the energy regulator as well as the member of the electricity subcommittee. We are also joined by two members of our of the energy regulator, and who will also participate in the final decision of the energy regulator. They are sitting in the front desk here, or front line here. I have Mr. Yusuf Adam, who is also the part-time member and the member of the energy regulator. Mr. Adam is joined also by Ms. Malihu Nkomo, who is the deputy chairperson of the energy regulator, and also participate in the final decision of these applications. Ladies and gentlemen, I've already indicated the rules that are governing this public hearing, and I just want to remind those that are going to give presentations today that all the presentations, all the presenters will be required to do their presentations under oath, and the members of the panel here are the only ones that are permitted to ask questions from the presenters. However, if there is a member of the audience here who would like to get clarification or from the presenters, that member of the audience can write the question or what they want the panel to ask in a piece of paper and hand it over to Mr. Sandile Dlamini. I'm not seeing Sandile Dlamini or Eliasa, but I have or Sandile Dlamini. I produced the Sandile Dlamini is sitting on the front desk here. And then he will then pass that question over to the panel, who will then decide how to put the question to the presenter. The presenters are given 15 minutes to do their presentations, and should the presenter wish to present confidential information, please indicate to the panel so that the panel can decide whether or not we need to clear the room so that we hear the confidential information. Just to remind everyone that the proceedings of this hearing are recorded by the audio system, including live streaming, and that will be the official record of this hearing today. I would like to request you that you switch off your cell phones, or please keep them on silent mode so that they do not interrupt the proceedings. And the Nersa team will inform or will guide you where we're going to have tea as well as lunch that will be served later on. Ladies and gentlemen, I have about 6 presenters today, and that includes ESCOM, who is supposed to respond to all the issues raised by the panel yesterday, as well as the various stakeholders. Some of the responses will be provided in writing, but it will be important that they highlight those key issues that were asked here yesterday, to make sure that they have taken them down and will provide the responses to those specific ones. May I then invite the person who's going to inform us of the evacuation procedures before we start. Somebody who's going to...
Welcome to the Durban ICC, where the world meets Africa. As a leading world-class events facility, we make your safety our #1 priority. Please give us your attention for a few minutes to take you through some important health and safety information. As the Durban ICC is a public space, please remember to keep your personal belongings safe and with you at all times. We have many bathrooms for you to use around the venue. They are clearly marked in the foyer and concourse areas. The Durban ICC is a smoke-free building, but we do have clearly marked smoking zones outside the main entrance and in the courtyards opposite the concourse. Please make use of these areas and the ashtrays provided when you smoke. In the event of a medical emergency, please dial the emergency number 031-360-1007 for assistance. The Durban ICC has developed a very simple emergency evacuation plan that everyone must be familiar with. Our staff are specially trained and will be there to assist you in following this plan. In the event of an evacuation, an announcement will be made to leave the venue. Please remain calm and walk swiftly to the nearest emergency exit in the concourse area. These exit doors are clearly marked. Security guards and the marshals will also help direct you out of the building. Please do not use any lifts or escalators in the event of an emergency. Once outside, you will be directed to the nearest assembly point by the marshals for your safety. Please wait at the assembly point until the venue has been cleared and the marshal deems it safe for you to return to your seats. Thank you for your time and enjoy this event.
Thank you for the video. Just before we start, may I remind everyone that there are headphones that are put on the seats to assist with the interpretation. However, please, you are requested that you leave the headphone on the seat where you found it when you leave the room. There are some headphones that are missing. We are just informed by the officials here. We make an earnest appeal to you to leave them in your seats. The first presenter that we have today is Groundwork SA. I have the name of David to present. Good morning. Okay, Mr. David, I can't see the
David Hallows.
Hello.
Hallows.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, I see that you are replacing someone, so I can't see the handwriting here. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the facts you're going to present before this panel today is the truth and the whole truth? All right, and please state your full name and your designation at Groundwork SA.
My name is David Hallows. I'm a researcher at Groundwork.
All right, you may start with your presentation, sir.
Great, thank you. I think you've all seen this, have you? Yeah? It is the overcharge of the Light Brigade. Eskom scarping out of the door with money while the people are left on the floor. Just to remind what exactly the implications in terms of rands and cents are for what Eskom is asking. That is the price per unit over the next till 21-22, yeah? So from now at 94 cents, it rises to 143, and that's before the municipality, before the RCA clawback. The one which has already been awarded, I think, is for 5%. Is that correct? And so that means that effectively Eskom will be looking for 20% this year. And then we have the additional RCA application that's in today, and we have the municipal increases. Now, as I calculated, I think eThekwini's unit price of electricity at the moment is about round about R1.50, and it will rise up to about R2.30, provided that the municipality doesn't put an additional increase on the price, and that excludes the RCA clawback increases. Yeah, so we can expect something around 240 or so by 2021. Protecting the poor. I think you heard from a lot of people yesterday about the impacts of the electricity price rises on the poor, and I think you'll hear more from Bongani today about it. Eskom has asked for an increase on the inclining block tariffs of 15%. Those only apply to Eskom's direct customers, not to the municipal customers. Our view is that inclining block tariffs should be universal, and they should be seen as a demand-side management strategy rather than as a subsidy, as Eskom likes to represent them. There's also, Eskom also mentions in its application the free CFL, the energy efficient light bulbs, and solar water heater rebates. Frankly, I don't think those things have been handed out for ages. Yeah, both those programs, as far as I'm aware, are stalled. So much for protecting the poor. And essentially, Eskom implies that if the poor are to be protected, they should be protected by somebody else, not Eskom. So then there's a question also along there of what the pass-through from the municipalities to poor people are going to be. Yeah? In MYPD 2, Desmond Desar from SATSI mentioned yesterday that we've been coming to these hearings for a long time. This is what we said in MYPD 2, that we were being asked to support the wrong energy model. That it was wrong on the choice of power generation, it's wrong on what and who the power is for, it's wrong on social and environmental externalities, it's wrong because Eskom wants people to pay for its choices without consulting them. That was what we said in the MYPD 2, and now we find also that we're being asked to pay for Eskom's rank mistakes and for the corruption that has accompanied that we've seen over the last 10 years. Yeah? In 2009, we said Eskom's choice of very large generating plant creates unaffordable funding requirements. The costs of Medupi and Kusile have risen exponentially. This was in 2009. Total cost for Eskom's new build, we estimated at 84 billion in 2004. These two plants alone are now put at 260 billion, and it seems that this is not yet the final price. Well, indeed it wasn't, was it? So that was how the price went up to about 2016. The cost of completion there, 195 for Medupi and 225 for Kusile on the estimates of EE publishers. The choice of big base plants was basically to supply big base load industry. Yeah? So it was the energy intensive industries which were actually supporting those choices made by Eskom, and I'm going to come back to that later on. At that time, 2009 again, we said this is going to be an overinvestment. Now Eskom wants to be compensated in the RCA application for that overinvestment, just as it asked last year to be compensated for overinvestment. At that time, the energy intensive users group was already complaining of rising costs. Now the energy intensive users group is going to Eskom asking for competitive tariffs for big industry. So the question then is, okay, so who's the bill going to be stuck to? Yeah? Residents? It's about all that's left. Coal costs on Eskom's own account. The high-power coal resources in decline. The big old mines are reaching the end of their lives. We heard yesterday that they are trying to put back in place some of the long-term contracts that they refused to prolong a couple of years ago. More coal is coming from smaller mines. More coal is transported over long distance. Coal quality is declining and environmental impacts are increasing. Eskom doesn't tend to dwell on the procurement scandals around coal any more than it dwells on the other scandals pertaining to the conduct of the last 10 years or so. We've also seen that in 2008, Eskom actually started getting serious about energy conservation because the lights went out. Yeah. In 2009, we said, as with Eskom, government's record suggests that getting a return on its infrastructure investments will trump conservation as soon as an expanded power supply is secured, and irrespective of any rhetorical devotion to climate mitigation. Okay, so now we have Eskom focusing on demand stimulation, but they're still getting it wrong every time. This particular application is the most modest consumption demand increases that I've seen in any Eskom application, but it is still far greater than what they're going to, than the electricity that they're going to actually sell. So they are still over, they're still exaggerating future demand. And they'll still be asking us to pay for that exaggeration at the end of the 2 years. Just a side note on small-scale embedded generation. We have a concern that there's been minimal public participation around small-scale embedded generation rigs. Just for those who aren't aware of it, small-scale embedded generation is when households or supermarkets or whatever put up solar PV or some other form of generation on their facilities or on their homes or in community co-ops or whatever, and supply part of their own electricity but are still connected to the grid, right? So they could notionally supply the grid at times when they're producing more than they're consuming, or they could draw on the grid when they are using more than they produce. We are concerned, and it's not only about the regulations coming out of Nersa, it's also about what cities seem to be talking about, with Cape Town leading, that the intention appears to be to secure a captive market for Eskom and the municipalities by law. In other words, to discourage the installation of small-scale embedded generation in order to retain a market for Eskom and municipalities. We think that this is, if that is the intention, this is a seriously mistaken approach. Eskom is supposed to be prudent and efficient. There's been nothing prudent and efficient about what Eskom has been doing over the last few years, and I think we heard a lot about that yesterday. Maintenance, we've been through the cycle about 3 times, I think, where Eskom has delayed maintenance in anticipation that Medupi and Kusile are going to come online, so the old power stations can kind of be left to with lower maintenance than they should have, and we've been through that about 3 times. The Majuba coal line, they have a policy of moving from road to rail. As far as I'm aware, the Majuba coal line is still not opened and was supposed to have been opened about 2 years ago. What's going on? The turnaround strategy, where is it? Are they going to publish it? Are we going to be told about it? What's happening? Plant closures, where's the planning? Yeah, we are aware that there has been an indication that Tendrina will be shut by about April. There's no closure plan. Yeah, they're simply putting things in cold storage in order to avoid the financial implications of having to actually close plants. The just transition, what is going to happen to those workers? Yeah? How are we going to move from a coal-based economy to a renewables-based economy in order to address issues of climate change? And just on climate change, there's a headline in Natal Witness a couple of days ago talking about a green drought in areas of KwaZulu-Natal, right? We had a drought 2014, 2015, 2016. There are areas of the province which have not recovered. So we all know about Cape Town and Port Elizabeth and places like that. There are areas in this province that have not recovered from that drought. Basically, the runoff from the rivers is much reduced, even when we do get the rainfall, and there has been below average rainfall since the drought. Okay, we are in an extremely serious situation. If we do not transition to a non-polluting electricity generation source, we will come to the closure of Medupi and Kusile before the end of their lifetimes, because it will be too hot to run them. So, externalities. The full life cycle externalities from Kusile raised the levelized cost by between 91 and 205 cents a kilowatt hour, according to researchers at Pretoria University, accounting conservatively for the life cycle burdens and damages of coal-derived electricity. So it doubles or quadruples the price of electricity if those costs were to be included. Yeah? Kusile is a supercritical plant. It's designed with sulfur scrubbers, unlike every other plant that Eskom runs, and consequently the externality costs will be lower for Kusile than for other plants. On research which we commissioned, there are about 2,000 people a year who die as a result of one species of pollution from Eskom's plants. That's PM 2.5, right? Fine particulate pollution. Eskom itself admits to about 300 only. The research that they did for that is being contested, and that will be it will be publicly contested during the course of this year. But nevertheless, think what would happen if there were 300 people killed in coal mines every year. That would be a serious national scandal. Because these bodies aren't seen and laid out on the ground for everybody to see as a result, or that they are the result of Eskom's pollution, of course nobody takes the blindest bit of notice. The same sort of thing happens to ex-mine workers. Once they leave and are dying of silicosis or black lung, then of course nobody takes any notice. Climate change. If we are going to get 1.5, right? We're at about 1 degree now, probably a bit over 1 degree, depending on when you think pre-industrial was. We used to think that pre-industrial was 1750. It now appears that the IPCC is using a base of 1850 to 1900. But we're at just over 1 degree now, and the impacts are already harder than anticipated. 1.5 degree we might just be able to scrape under if we take emergency action now, right? Globally, but also in South Africa, everybody has to do that. For 2 degrees, okay, between 1.5 degrees and 2 degrees, the impacts will increase exponentially, not linearly, exponentially. Yeah, we would need to have very steep reductions in our emissions annually in order to come in under that target. Yeah, so there are also some very reputable climate scientists. The person who was predicting 2 degrees by 2036 is a man called Michael Mann, who he was the person who originally drew up the hockey stick curve. South Africa's PPD trajectory is entirely inadequate. It should be said that every other country's is inadequate, but since we have the Paris Agreement where every country volunteers what they're going to do, then it's up to us to ensure that South Africans actually get real about climate change. We keep being told to get real about the fact that there's a lot of coal in the ground, therefore we must burn it. If we don't get real about climate change, we'll experience very harsh results from getting real about burning coal. Okay, so alcohols on Nersa. First, that Eskom itemize, quantify corruptly incurred costs, and that those costs are taken off its allowed revenues. Reject Eskom's proposed residential tariff increase, and we call for a universal inclining block tariff. We call for the repudiation without compensation for South 32's special pricing agreements, and we propose that the cost of baseload new build be attributed to the energy intensive corporations which asked for them in the first place. There might be other ways of doing that, like putting a special tax on corporation, or simply restoring corporate tax to something like what it was in 1994. Call on Nersa to consider the externalized costs of construction and operation to the environment and to people's health and well-being. Call for the closure of equivalent capacity of Eskom's old coal plants as Medupi and Kusile are brought online. In fact, that sort of seems to be happening, but it seems to be happening on the quiet with units being put in cold storage. But then we find that Medupi and Kusile have been badly put together, and they're having serious problems with those plants anyway. So for the 400 billion odd that we've forked out for those plants, we've got a couple of duds, it would seem. Call for expanded and sustained energy conservation to be made a core component of the energy system. And we call on government to conclude the IRP 2018 process in an open, participatory and democratic manner, to create socially owned systems operator independent of Eskom, to turn away from fossil and nuclear technologies and focus national capacity on building a sustainable energy system under people's control and based on energy conservation and efficiency and renewable generation technologies. And we call on government to plan for a just transition to an open, participatory and democratic process. So, in our view, to supply the energy needs of the people, to respond to unemployment, to avoid catastrophic climate change, to clean up air pollution and let people breathe. The air pollution on the high part is really intense, yeah? And a lot of that stuff drifts into the high population areas as well. Conserve water and prevent further destruction of whole watersheds and avoid bankrupting itself. It should focus natural resources on developing renewables under democratic control while shutting down coal plants. Thank you.
Mr. Hallo. I'm going to check if the members have any specific questions or clarity that they would like you to provide. I'm starting with Mr. Foley. Thank you. Mr. Mkis.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks for the presentation, Mr. Hallo. I would just like to understand what is your standpoint with regard to the applications now that you assist with.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Hallo. Now, so one of the things that we will have to do is to determine the impact of Eskom's requests on various sections of society. And there's an organization that works directly with communities. I just wanted to check whether you are in a position to help us, you know, in terms of what you think the impact will be. And I know you've touched on some of the general views, but do you have specifics in terms of how you think this application will impact on communities? I think if you can probably give us more information that will assist us. And then you also talked about the issue around overinvestment. Now, what that didn't quite get is, well, I'm suggesting that we should keep the cost of the new build to the original amounts, but also bearing in mind that in terms of legislation, Eskom can only be compensated for prudently acquired costs. So what is your proposal around what you deem to be over investments? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. If you could respond to those.
Okay. In terms of these applications, we don't think that Eskom should get anything. They shouldn't get a right. That view, I know, has been expressed by a number of people who have given evidence to you, and that is also our view. We think that a rise should only be considered once there has been a full accounting of the over-expenditures, of the inefficiently procured power, of the corruptly procured of the corrupt contracting, etc. Yeah. Once there's been a full accounting of the looting, then I think we should possibly consider what Eskom is requesting and give that a more serious consideration. I'll come to the over-investment one following that particular point. There are two different issues. One is the over-expenditure on building those plants, yeah? So the price escalation on building those plants. The other one is the over-investment in terms of actually producing more capacity than will be needed because they keep on exaggerating future demand. Yeah. One must have a little bit of sympathy for Eskom in terms of the exaggerated future demand, because government also continually supports that exaggeration of future demand. And back in 2010, the 2010 IRP was put together with the advice from the Minerals Energy Complex A-list. Yeah? So Anglo was there, BHP Billiton was there. BHP Billiton was still in the country at that time. Exaro was there, Sasol was there, Eskom itself was there. Yeah, all those big corporates were in the room, and it was the advice that they gave that resulted in that enormously exaggerated future demand projections. So that's part of the reason why we think that if we're talking about where the bill should go for those big plants, well, we think that some of those organisations ought to be bearing a substantial portion of that of those costs. The other issue of the price escalations, well, I think Eskom needs to account for those price escalations. And we need to not give Eskom any increases until they've done so, and we need to make sure that in future Eskom's demand projections are actually realistic, and that they make provision for the fact that their sales are contracting. Yeah? With this particular application, I mean, people talked about yesterday, with this particular application, Eskom are simply going further into the debt spiral, so we would expect that there would be a further contraction of demand. If they're 15% plus 5% RCA plus whatever other RCA awards are made to it, we don't see how they come out of that. There must be a way, and we think that this should be part of the way in which we consider a just transition. There must be a way of managing a decline in Eskom sales. Yeah. Sorry. Then the impact on poor people. I know that Bongani from South Durban, Bongani and Tembu, who's coming next, is going to be talking about that as well. I'm going to leave it to him, and I think SATSI has produced a survey in, are you talking to that, Bongani? And he'll be talking to that. The last time that we looked up close on what people were using in their homes, as was 2013, when the price was already going up, but it's gone up quite a lot further since then. And in some homes, people were not only resorting to paraffin and to coal and to those kinds of energies to supplement well, once they'd spent free basic electricity, those of them who actually got free basic electricity, people were actually burning rubbish. Yeah, they're burning plastic, they're burning all sorts of stuff. And that was in 2013. We did a report on what people were using at that time. We wouldn't have an update really on that at the moment, but certainly we can consider that request and whether we can get any more hard information. But I think in Durban certainly Satya probably got the best information at the moment. Yep.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harold, for the information. And if you have further information you would like to share with us, you are welcome to do so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next presenter is SDCA. I've got the name of Bongani Mthembu. I'll take may you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the facts you're going to present before this panel will be the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Ora ngicela usithethe igama lakho kunye nesikhundla osiphetheyo kulo mbutho wakho.
Igama lami uBongani Mthembu from the South Durban Community Environment Alliance. I deal with equality and GIS.
Alright, you can proceed.
Morning everyone. As I just stated, my name is Bongani Mthembu from the South Durban Community Environment Alliance. So, okay, unfortunately I had a picture right there and technology just failed us. But this picture was very important to show you guys because basically this picture, it's a man, as you can see, it's a big size man. And this man, the writing as you can see, on April 8, 2010, South Africa got a 3.75 billion loan from the World Bank to finance Eskom coal-fired power station. So basically, this picture, as you can see, says Eskom and the World Bank sowing the seed of destruction. Okay, yesterday what I've actually observed, this slide came out of the discussion from yesterday. What we have seen, Chair and your panelists, is that we saw, by any chance, I'm just trying to figure out where's Eskom. Is Eskom in the house? Is Eskom here?
No, I
just wanted to find out.
Eskom is here, it's an applicant, so you can just find out from the chairperson so that you don't conduct yourself and address the audience. All right, thank you.
Yes, what we actually picked up yesterday, Chair, is that 80% of the questions from the panelists, Eskom dismally failed to respond to those questions. And to us, it wasn't surprising, but it was actually a fear to say, you know, the top management of a parastatal, they should have responses or answers to the public that they really owe to the South African citizens. They just couldn't answer most of those questions. It was really a disappointment to us. And one gentleman from Eskom said, I quote, "South Africa is blessed with coal." That was a statement. And it was also a fear to us because as far as we know that South Africa is blessed with coal, that does not mean that we should exploit that coal because so much of anything is bad. So for him to say that it was a shocking, because that is an indication that for them to know that South Africa is blessed of coal, that means for them renewables is something else, something that they do not even consider because they believe or they are convinced that South Africa is blessed of coal, so they do not even consider on renewables. That was getting to us. External disadvantages of hiking tariffs, it will be job losses, as it was mentioned yesterday, business closure. Household families, you know, this is very important. Unfortunately, yesterday I experiencing, I slept I think 10 at night, just polishing my slides. Unfortunately, I think 5 minutes before I go to bed, and then the light was cut off in my area. That's why, unfortunately, I couldn't wear my nice activist t-shirt that speaks about ESCOM. So that's why today I'm actually wearing torn jeans and everything, because I couldn't iron. Up until this morning, there was no light. So you know, for household, poor communities, you know, as a father, I've got family, I've got 2 kids, I've got a wife. As a father or as a family, for you not to afford electricity is a disgrace in your community. Example, let's say for example, budgets are not allowing me to be able to buy electricity because some of us are using prepaid electricity. For my house to be in the dark on a specific day, my kids, they are feeling, they sort of like, it's a disgrace for them, it's a disgrace for myself, because I have to fork the last cent I have, be it maybe for bread, to buy electricity. And that on its own is causing stress to the parents. And that also causes divorce and abuse. I end up shouting to my kids, because my stress is they need to be electrified, the house needs to be electrified, and I don't have the money. And probably my kid will be asking me any question. I'll be stressed out and then probably maybe respond, you know, not in a proper way as a parent, because I'm stressed out. And such things, you know, probably my wife will be talking about something I'm not even paying attention, you know, and then there'll be stress in the house, you know. So this issue of electricity, you know, guys, it's a very, very important issue. It's not an issue of not having electricity, but it's an issue of also dignity of a person. That's why I'm speaking about stress, divorce, abuse that is caused by not being able to afford electricity. On Wednesday, I was speaking to my mom, and then my mom said, you know what, apparently we met in Spingo, and then she bought a 50 Rand voucher because she's using prepaid as well. And I went to see her, and she said, you know what, if you buy electricity, you know, if I buy electricity, I feel I've done something. You know why? Because the electricity that we buy is super expensive, it's very expensive, and for her to say that when she buys electricity, she feels like she has done something, it's like there's a weight over her shoulder that has been put off. It's because really to not have electricity is stressful to our citizens, to our people. ESCOM further is not proactive or anticipating to consider a radical shift to renewables. There is a problem. We are frustrated. Criminal activities increase due to the previous point that I've mentioned. Stress, having to be able to electrify your house. Be it you take money out of your transport that you need to go to work, or having to take money that was meant for bread. That is also causing criminal activities, because you end up thinking of other options. Class, racism, load shedding, example township, blackouts, without any notice. We see this literally every day. Sorry, Chair, can I ask this question? Is Etewini electronic department in this house?
We will inform you once I check with the people who took down the names of the attendees, but you can get that later on. But this hearing is recorded, so you can convey the message that you want to convey. Okay. I'm sure they will get it once they want to access the record.
Yeah, thank you. Why am I asking for them?
Because you've got more slides and you're still on slide one, the second slide,
right.
So that you don't compromise, you know, all the points you want to make.
Okay, thanks. Why I'm asking about the integrity department, there are other culprits. They are culprits as well. I had to run. One of the major reasons of this continuous increase is because of political or cronyism influence in transportation of coal. So we as civil society, we might be fighting not for ESCOM to get any increment, but there are other role players, you know, silence players. They have 4, 10, 15 trucks that are actually carrying coal. For them it's business, and it's business as usual. They just don't care about us. And it's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate because it's the very same people that have been voted into power that have these kind of trucks that are transporting coal. They just don't care about us because for them it's all about profits. I feel we are fighting the symptoms, not the disease. And to know the disease is the people behind this tariff increase. That's the disease. We're busy fighting symptoms instead of the actual disease, and it's a problem. ESCOM reps are here to say they fed salaries and big bonuses. It's a fact. We just cannot run away from that. ESCOM is like a virus passing on the back. They're just like a virus. They're just passing on the back. South African citizens suffer, bear the consequences of incompetent executive of a spoiled parastatal. ESCOM has been using ratepayers as their cash cow, ATMs and blessers. For your information, if you don't know what's a blesser, it's a guy that has a lot of money and someone is using that person for their own objectives. So basically, that's what ESCOM is doing to the civil society of this country. They're using us as their blessers. And we sick and tired, we cannot allow that. It's totally unacceptable. For most consumers, these tariffs have been high too fast and too high, contributing to factory closure, illegal connection, as I mentioned previously. Research, energy work survey at the South Durban Basin in these areas, Umlazi, Ezigo, it's part of Wamakuta, Clearwood and Wentworth. It was focusing mainly on the type of the system used, employment status, disconnection, and how do they feel about the system. Basically the system of which they're using, most of these areas they're using prepaid card. So that's the system that they're using. So this research was done in, if I'm not mistaken, we did it in 2010, if I'm not mistaken, 2010 to 2009, somewhere around there. Then the big question is, energy for whom? It's a question that we need to ask ourselves as, is energy for whom that is produced by ESCOM? Probably it's not energy for civil society. It must be energy for big business. That's a big problem. Apartheid law still exists to this date in South Africa, designed to cater for the elite and big corporation, not for the masses of this country. That's how we see it. Disconnection, 60%. Millions of people electricity are cut off due to a lack of affordability. Plus minus millions of people, 10 million of people do not have access to electricity. To date, how do they feel about the system? That was the question that they were asked. The communities during the survey. They said very expensive, lack of consultation, there is no such gatherings in community halls where people are really affected. It's here at Hilton, and it's a sad reality because most of the people that are here, I would say 80% of the people that are in this house, they are brought by one organization. Why I'm saying they are brought by one organization, because that's the very same organization ensure that we pay for the taxi transports for them to be here, because we saw that it was very important for them to be part of this gathering, because it affects them on a daily basis. It's totally unfair. The health impacts, as rightfully David Hellows alluded in terms of the, these power cold stations, emitting pollution, renewable energy, illegal connections. Unfortunately, the slide there couldn't display as well. So basically, it's a graph. This graph is part of the survey that was done, looking at the type of the system used. in different communities. And on the first graph, I said postpaid, prepaid, 40%, postpaid is 10%, prepaid it's 40%, mix, meaning prepaid and postpaid, it will be 20%, and then no electricity at all is 30%. So up until today, to date, I remember one of the colleagues spoke yesterday that when they relocated from the farm, thinking they are coming to town, to the city, for a better life, to understand, and they won't experience any, not having electricity. But unfortunately, it's the case. In some areas, they still depending on paraffins, candle, gas, and wood. And mind you, if communities are going to need to be cook or whatever, warm themselves, if they are going for wood, that means ESCOM or we are actually contributing to deforestation, because there is no other option. People need to cook, so they need to go and chop trees, of which we are totally against. It's a problem. Indoor pollution is another problem as well, because the very same people, they have no other option. They need to prepare a meal, warm their homes, and then it causes indoor pollution. Deaths, accident, deaths, diseases such as TB, repeated fires in shacks, as we have seen on TV. It's a problem. Impact on the environment, greenhouse gases. I won't mention that. David has spoken about that. Acid mine drainage, climate change, carbon emission footprints. It's a problem. Renewable energy, solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, power energy. These are some alternatives that should be looked at. Why we reject this increase? Disadvantaged communities cannot afford. ESCOM failed to embrace the use of renewable energy and provide sufficient funds to pursue various renewable energy as I mentioned on my previous slide. ESCOM's proposal will lead to huge increase in greenhouse gases that has been mentioned. I'll cross over. ESCOM proposal will lead to job losses. I've also mentioned that as well. Why we reject to this? Special pricing agreement. This was the most wrong routes that was done by the apartheid government. Special pricing agreement. Considering secretive pricing deals which was carried over from the apartheid states and renewed by the democratic states with major energy users such as BHP Billiton, Acela Metal, Anglo-American. It's a problem. The real beneficiaries of the ESCOM production, it will be BHP Billiton, Anglo-American, Acela Metal, and others. Make profits and sell it to abroad, hence putting extreme pressure on current account deficits. That's why ESCOM cannot function. They are on deficit. They don't have money. Whatever money they have, they're making sure that they are keeping enough for them to be able to give themselves bonuses. It's a fact. That's why they're always looking for payouts. They need billions. Normal industrial rates, these might be and might have changed over the years probably. Normal industrial rate 16 cents per kilowatt, cheapest in the world in 2007. Largest consumers are smelters in Richards Bay. The valve supplied below the price. So basically, the big smelters, they are supplied below the production of electricity. It's a problem. Residents pay up to ±7 times more per unit of electricity. Might be even more than that 7. Electricity than big business. Therefore, subsidizing industries. It's a problem. In my conclusion, we as an NGO, CBO, representing communities in South Durban and the broader KZN mostly feel that ESCOM should not be provided with any tariff increase at this time. Calls for the repudiation without compensation of the special pricing agreement with BHP Billiton. Calls on Nersa to consider a financial scrutiny on operational costs of ESCOM as a failing, disgraced parastatal. My other conclusion, ESCOM needs to go back to the drawing board with an objective and a sober plan. ESCOM's audacity is refusing to make progressive plans to make radical shift to renewables. It's totally unacceptable. Commission of inquiry to the state capture of Busasa. I think we saw that yesterday. People giving evidence. Commission of inquiry is needed for ESCOM. We need it for ESCOM. ESCOM, you are a professional thieves. You are professional thieves. In Busasa, they are professional thieves, and ESCOM as well. They are professional thieves. You are making the company properly. Free basic electricity. How many in this house here, please raise your hands up, who are beneficiaries of...
You're not going to address the audience. You must address the panel here so that you can have information.
Okay, my apologies. Thank you for the reminder. I do not believe, I'm speaking to myself, no hands. I do not believe there's anyone enjoying free basic electricity that was promised. This is a picture that I took from AtLife Africa. They are based in Johannesburg. Because I've never experienced free basic electricity. If there is free basic electricity, it was designed to be impossible to get it. It's really impossible. Probably you are required to spend 50 rand a month in order for you. Probably, I'm just making probably. So I'm just making an example. Who can use electricity that is not even worth 50 rand, because when you buy for 50 rand a kilowatt, the units are very low. Probably they 20 something units. So it's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mtembo. If you have a piece of paper in case the members here would like to get clarity on some of the proposals that you have put forward, so that we understand exactly what we would like Nersa to do or ESCOM to do, and see what is it that can be done from our side within our mandate. I'm going to start with Mr. Smart.
Thank you, Chairperson. I don't have a question, just a request to have access to the research that you mentioned. I'm assuming this is the same survey that Mr. Harris referred to. Would like to have access to that, please, if you can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Plant and Mr. Mkis. All right, Mr. Foley? No question. Thank you very much, Uti, for your time. We'll definitely take into account some of the concerns you've raised, and we have the copies of your presentation, and if you could please provide the copy of that research in the next 7 days, we'll appreciate that. We thank you for your time. All right, we're moving on, and we're going to take another presentation from Sydenham Lodge Body Corporate. I've got the name of Desi Devar. All right, and if you could assist there with the mic there. Yeah. All right, good morning, ma'am. All right, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly declare that the facts you're going to provide before this panel will be the truth and the whole truth? All right, please state your name and your designation at this body corporate that you are representing. Please speak straight to the mic.
My name is Deirdre de Ball. I represent the Sydenham-based community. I'm also the chair for the Poor Flat Dwellers Association. Firstly, I just want to say we are grateful to Nersa for this public hearings and advising the state of the ESCOM application for the 15-20% increase that the poorest of the poor are forced to pay. We thank the panel for including our civil society NGO as we raise questions and represent the unseen, the unheard, state-funded civilians who do not understand and simply cannot afford any increase applied by ESCOM at this point. It is not just for our province, but the entire South Africa continent, example Western Cape, Johannesburg, PE, all those places that are suffering right now. We appeal to Nersa to work with our NGO, making our people priority. It is now the 4th year that we are in position by ESCOM, as we are fighting on behalf of the impoverished communities and the concerns of their living standards to date. We have previously stated the position of all those which we represent and how it will affect them if ESCOM is allowed to get the go-ahead on the 15-20% increase. We plead with Nersa to re-evaluate the application of ESCOM, as you know, the history of the people whom we represent and their financial status. It is not fair that the poor people of this country have to suffer worse than they already are. It is inhumane and against all that this country stands for. Once again, we appeal to Nersa for pro bono education workshops for the poor. Because in each district, people are not educated in the sense of what their rights are and what they are able to do, but they're so used to being dictated to, and they become followers as opposed to leaders that can stand on their own 2 feet. So therefore, our plea is, Nersa, please host these educational workshops in the districts of the poorest of the poor. The outcome of this will be that it will ensure the benefiting way that will save their state-funded earnings, because then they'll be educated on how to handle things and which departments to go to and how to carry it through. So in respect of aftercare service by ESCOM, the poor are forced to work with a middleman that provides meters. These meters are made and designed by the middleman and is supplied to millions of the poor civilians across the country. These meters are SABC approved, but the components are not. They are imported. So, for example, my mum has also prepaid electricity. Her box is broken. She's now waiting for the 3rd month to have one returned to her, which she's had to pay an additional cost for, seeing as how it's broken. And that's a fee, as a pensioner, she cannot afford to pay. Because she initially paid the 1.5, now she has to pay a further 700 to 800 rand for a renewal of a box. That does not make sense. By no account that a pensioner should have to actually go and purchase, and it's like purchasing it again. So where's the aftercare? Where's the maintenance of those boxes? Who's doing the maintenance of those boxes? ESCOM has not taken the responsibility, has given it over to who? The middleman. So, the general public are not satisfied with the design supply of this product because it doesn't benefit the people. And there is no repairs, only replacements of new meters as their only option. So which is simply not affordable. The waiting period for the same replacement also leaves the consumer without electricity for often more than, that you can even fathom. In this case, the box is broken, you got a 3-month period to wait just to get a replacement. So in that 3 months, what electricity are you using? There's electrical appliances in the homes, fridges, that is meaning loss on top of loss. So, being off the grid with their so-called systems by ESCOM still fails to deliver. So we appeal to Nersa as a regulator board to hold the service provider accountable to satisfy its consumers who are suffering, and there is nobody that can be contacted that treats the consumer with dignity. And the implementation of a better service that benefits its people should be brought forward. Because if you pick up a phone and you want to lodge a complaint, let's just say for argument's sake, either to ESCOM or to municipality, you get given the runaround. Now, let's be honest, a pensioner cannot be on a phone for more than 5 minutes at a time. Because even that person on the other end of the line that's supposedly assisting them gives them the runaround. Because they know that they are not of the understanding, they don't understand the full terminology of what you speak, so therefore they just give you whatever they feel like giving you on the other end, because you are not physically standing in front of them. So there's nobody that can, it's safe to say that we can contact with a complaint, or if you're placing an order of some sort, there is no dignity in it. That call to a pensioner is like a disgrace. And it's hurtful to them as well, because they get treated like infidels. Now you and I, we can still withstand it. Now take a pensioner in that position. That is, it's inhumane. There's no dignity in that. So, in conclusion, we appeal to Nersa to take public hearings to our communities that are out of the city, as most of our communities can't even afford to come here because of transport problems, because funding becomes an issue. As pensioners, as impoverished communities, there is no funding that they have access to. Pensioners barely manage to live on their government subsidies, so we can't very well expect them to go that extra mile. So we're asking Nersa, and we're pleading with you guys to please consider educating our people in the vicinities of their own communities, be it in their civic halls or even outside campaigns in the streets of their communities, to do some justice to the people. So thanks again to Nersa for this platform, to hear the people's voice and to also work with the people. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Deval, for the presentation, and you certainly raised important issues that we need to take into account, and it's an issue that has come out from a number of stakeholders, even yesterday and today, with regards to the concerns on the location of these public hearings. That Nersa must consider taking them to venues that will be much more accessible to even the poor communities. And I think that has been emphasized, and that will be taken into consideration. Also, the other key issue that has come out of today's presenters here, presentations, is that educational workshops, and we do have people from Nersa who are here today, so that they can identify those specific areas as well, because they do conduct workshops. They work with local organizations, including local municipalities as well, and the economic departments at a local level when they organize these workshops. So now that you also emphasized this issue, we have Amanda Mtembu amongst us here. We also have Vuiswap also, they are sitting over there, and they will take the details so that in their plan for this year they can make some changes to accommodate some of the requests, because you've really taken the time to be here, so they will have to accommodate you in conducting those workshops and understanding the issues that are faced by the communities in the revision of their plan. We thank you very much for your time, and on some of the issues that you've raised here, including the poor quality service, and also the response time in terms of broken meters and all of that. They will attend to that, and also work with some colleagues from Nersa. We thank you for your time. We're moving on and we're taking a presentation from Kwamakuta community. We have the name of Silungile Makhanya. Silungile Makhanya from Kwamakuta. Right, someone else. May you please raise your right hand? You solemnly declare that the facts you're going to provide before this panel is the truth and the whole truth? All right. May you please state your name and your position at Kwamakuta community?
Sanibonani, igama lami uSilungile ngwakaMakhanya, ngihamba kwaMakuta. Ngimemba yomphakathi waMakuta. Honorable Chair, bengizoba nombuzo kodwa uthe ukuphendula kancanyana lo ukuthi u-Eskom unayo yini isurvey ye-health condition yabantu abahlala lapha eduze kwalapho ndiwa khona amalahle. Ngabe kube nayo yini ama-workshop ngendaba zamalahle ney'mpilo zabo endaweni ehlala laphaya abantu bomphakathi endaweni zalandiwa khona amalahle emayinini laphaya. Okwesibili ukuthi mayelana no-Eskom, iChina yaboleka u-Eskom ama-billions amarandi. Njengoba ugesi lokunyuka kangaka unyuka ugesi, asazi manje noma mhlambe indlela esesikhokha ngayo lama-billions amarandi abolekwa u-Eskom. Ngoba manje mungabe ubheka la, mungabe uthenga ikhadi la 20 rand, uphenduka kuba u-11 rand esigubhini. Muliyeka nje ikhadi lakho ungalifaki ize liphele nya esigubhini. Ngale ngathi usulifake la 20 rand wakho, ikhadi liphendukela 11 rand. Lo 9 rand wonke usushonephi? Asisebenze South Africa. Imisebenzi njalo kuthiwa kuyadilizwa enkampanini, kuyadilizwa kuhlele emakhaya. Bathi sithatha yonke le mali mengabe 20 rand wakho uzophenduka 11 rand. Uzofaka 100 rand uzophenduka malini 100 rand. 100 rand usufana no 50 rand noma no 40 rand ugesi. Bathi sithatha yonke le mali. Ngibuye ngize la. Singabantu imvamisa njengoba sigcwele la siphume emakhaya. Njengoba siphume emakhaya nje sineyingane ezifunda ezikoleni. Manje sekunogesi manje. Njengoba sekunogesi nje ingane zethu noma ingane zomama bethu ziyahlukumezeka ezikoleni. Njengoba kwaziwa ukuthi sesidiphendele kogesi, ingane izokufika esikoleni ifika ayiniki noma mhlawumbe i-uniform yayo ishiswe i-ayina lombhadeko. Abaningi bayawazi umbhadeko, ishiswe umbhadeko. Lezi ezinye iy'ngane esehlekisa ngayo le ngane esikoleni. Yingakho siney'ngane ey'dropha out ey'koleni njengamanje zingafundi mase kuthiwa i-South Africa, iyouth yase-South Africa ayifundile. Hhayi ngoba kuwukuthanda kwethu nendlela esifisa ngayo ukuthi maqhubeke ngazi izinto. Menzofika umasipala uzokucishela ugesi, maybe ufunda umatric, abazali abasebenzi, awusebenzi ndawo kwayiwena, uyawumfundi udinga ukuthi ube nekusasa eliqhakazile. Uzocishela ugesi namhlanje uyabhala ama-exam, bathi funda ngani? Uzofunda ngani ukuthi uze le exam yakho iqede uphase ngama-flying colors? Akusenzeki. Ngibuye ngize la emalokishini, njengoba ngiphuma elokishini lamaKhuthi. Ngeke uvele uyothatha iy'nkuni uyibeke emnyango upheke ibhodi elivutha ngisho usuthanda. Ngeke uzukwenze lokho. Bafethu Eskom akungadlalwa ngathi kangaka. Shintshani indlela enenza ngayo, asingakhokhi iy'kweletu zenu. Asiyikhokhi iy'kweletu zenu sibe sixakekile kangaka. Nifuna ukusicindezela more. Musani ukusicindezela, siyahlupheka. Asinayo imisebenzi.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu nami.
Oh, nakho konke ngiyaxolisa ma. Nakho kunye. Ekugcineni. Mebefika besipishela ugesi siyawazi la ugesi lo connector khona. Siyawazi ekugcineni bazothi ugesi siyawuntshontsha, sontshontsha ugesi siyawuthatha. Eminyakeni emibili edlule kwake kwamenishinwa la kuleli wona. Ukuthi ugesi bazothi sawuntshontsha siyathathela ugesi thina. Okwesithathu ngoba manje njalo sihleze sithi siyaqela manje sesiyafuna. Siyafuna-ke manje ngoba sihleze sicela asizwakali. I-KZN neTheku akulona i-KZN yonke njengoba ilale. Akusiyona. Siyafuna-ke manje. Ukuthi mangabe kukhona izinto ezikanje ngoba mina ukuba attend khona ngabe angiyazi into ngabe ngigcina ku TV ngabe ngigcina ku radio ukuthi ene ugesi uyanyuka ngaba ngaze ngize ngihlale kanje ngizwele kahle ukuthi uEskom uthini o uNersa uthini ake kube khona ninithathe nje lento mhlambe niyise eplaza noma mhlambe niyise endaweni ezinabantu asifasako abantu abamhlophe sihleze sihlangana nabo asibanqeni bayazi sesindawonye njengoba silana sokhuluma indaba eyodwa ngoba ugesi awu-affect bona kuphela kwayithini uyasihlukumeza nabo uyabahlukumeza. Ngiyabonga.
Sizwile isikhalo zakho, sizwile nokuthi ke lama hearings nawo ezindibano zithathwe zisiwe ebantwini abantu abachaphazelekayo ukukhutshulwa kwexabiso likagesi. Sikuzwile lokho kakhulu and sikuzwile ke nokuthi wena uthi ma untshontsha ugesi khawuntshontshe. Siyabonga kakhulu sithi ngesikhathi sakho. Ngiyabonga. At this stage, thank you. Let's not make noise. We are now going to call upon Eskom to give us responses. Eskom, if you have taken into account all the issues that were raised by stakeholders as from yesterday and today, and some of which relate to what Eskom is going to do in protecting the poor. And I think in one of the presentations they stated clearly, I think it's also today, the point where Eskom says is shifting the bar, stating that the issue of protecting the poor is not within its mandate. So, and I think also it came out from the interviews that were conducted that it's supposed to be Nersa and the government that looks into it. And I think Eskom has a role there, and it has to look at various options. So, if you could also touch on that. Thank you. Platform. Uyabona ke uthe izolo apha ukhulumile ukubonisa ukuthi siyalalela and fanele silalelane. Uthe izolo apha awazi ukuthi kungani uEskom ingaphakezwa kahle ngoba amanye la niyapresenta umelezekile ke uma ufuna umlayezo wakho ufike kulabantu kufanele benze utshintsho bazwisise wazi ukuthi nawe bawukhupha umyalezo lowo ukhupha ngendlela efanelekile and ulalelwe nawe uzolalele. That's very important. So banikeze ithuba ke uEskom uzokwazi ukuzwa ukuthi ngokwepha ngaphandle akulalele, and angicela response lapho ndicela ukuthi silalelane sizwe uEskom ukuthi uzothini na. Ukhumbule kahle ke ukuthi ezindibano ayizezu kaEskom, u-Eskom ufaka isicelo phela ukuthi zindibano zika-Nersa onguyena ongumlawuli oligunya lokulawula okanye iqumrhu lokulawula khona lapha kuzwelonke nguye ozawuthatha isinqumo. Masinikezo Eskom sizo kokuthi u-Eskom uzawuphendula athini na. Ms. Sasha, may you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the facts you're going to present before this panel will be the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
All right, please state your full name and your designation at Eskom.
My name is Harsha Chopra Nimaji, and I'm the General Manager responsible for regulation at Eskom.
All right, please raise your voice because I don't think others can hear. I'm not sure whether the problem is with the mic or what.
Is this any better?
Can you assist that?
Is this I think that's what
that's better.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to say on behalf of Eskom that we hear all of the comments and proposals that have been made. We really will, and Durban is always a challenging and an exciting place to come to, and it is my hometown, so it's nice to come back to this place, and I do know that there are various important and significant comments that have been made. And I can assure you that to the extent possible, Eskom will consider these comments as it goes through the public hearings, but we do request more time from the regulator members to allow us to apply our minds and to give some meaningful responses and proposals. And we have, in a previous public hearing, listed the areas where we will provide further responses to the various comments that have been made, and we do undertake to provide those. I'd just like to highlight some of them. The issue of protection of the poor, we will, as the Chair has mentioned, we will consider that and summarize what the situation is and how best we can take it forward. This is an area that we have in the past been actively involved with, and we will continue to do so. On particular issues that residents have raised, we do have our local office, our KwaZulu-Natal regional office representation here, and they have taken all the notes, and they will liaise with the relevant city authorities that do have relationships with to try and address, as well as what the Nersa representative and regulator member has referred to, that Nersa also plays an active role in this place. So we will coordinate and align to the extent possible with both Nersa and with the municipalities, as well as with Eskom regional offices as well. So we take these things seriously, and we will deal with them one by one as to the extent possible. We noticed that there were keen comments made on the whole environmental aspect. That is also something that Eskom has a particular department that deals with that, and we will at a future public hearing provide further feedback. Unfortunately, we do not have our relevant experts here at the moment, but we do undertake to provide that, and we will even write some information down so that it can be widely circulated. As far as the commissioning of the plants are concerned, we also note that, and that is determined by the integrated resource plan, and we note those comments, and we will try and take on board the comments that have been made here, especially as in relation to renewables, and we will try and make comments in the integrated resource planning processes that take these points into consideration. Various requests, especially yesterday, have made from Eskom relating to the various aspects of the application, and we have noted that, we have started, we have got the teams working on that already, and we will liaise with our Nersa colleagues to make sure that we align in ensuring that all of those areas where further clarity, either written or subsequent public hearings, are dealt with by the end of the public hearings. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sasha. I just want to check if there's any emphasis that the members here would like to make with regards to the response from ESCOM. Nothing from your side, Mr. Sibanda? Mr. Mkize?
Thanks, Mr. President. Thanks, Madam, for your response. I noticed that we're still going to talk to the issues of fraud and corruption in the upcoming public hearings, and I'm expecting that you then provide us a holistic picture in terms of what amounts have been able to be recouped and what still to be recouped, what kind of charges have been made. So, and part of what we are seeing happening is that currently there are many investigations underway that have alluded to, as well as some of the commissions. We've had the public also eager to understand your participation in the various commissions that are here, if you do participate or not. Just wanted to raise an issue that you provide a holistic picture. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. There was also a question from the members of the audience here with regards to operational expenses. What is ESCOM doing to make sure that it cuts down on operational expenses? You'll recall that that question was also put to ESCOM yesterday by myself, but also on the RCA. But I think going forward now on the MYPD4, if you could also touch on the issue of operational expenses and just deal with it in detail. As you know that it will also include maintenance cost and the other cost relating to staff cost and salaries, bonuses and that sort of thing. So those have been the areas where there's been a number of concerns, as you have heard from the previous presentations. If you could make sure that also that aspect gets attention when you revise your presentations and also the responses you are going to provide.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, we will.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Sasha. Thank you, Ms. Sasha, for the response. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of today's public hearing. However, we will proceed with these hearings and we're taking them to other provinces, and we are likely to conclude these gatherings around the 4th of February. That is the date that we have at this moment. We will see if there are any requests to have these hearings elsewhere, as we have cancelled about 2 because there were no presenters, but Nersa will indicate and communicate accordingly. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has taken the time to be here and be part of this gathering and share views and share concerns and highlight certain areas that you would like Nersa, ESCOM, government, municipalities to take into consideration, and also to share the impact that these increases will have, to poor communities, to people that are unemployed, also, what they will do, to the men on the street, and also to make sure that Nersa is quite sensitive when it comes to the location of these public hearings. And all of those are taken into consideration. There are some of the issues that require policy responses or clarity, such as the issue of the free basic electricity that you are saying it is not enough, because also with the frequency of these increases and also the extent of the increases, it then reduces the units that you used to get. So it becomes therefore ineffective. So those are some of the policy observations and the things that were stated that they need to be taken due consideration. I would like to thank the members of the energy regulator that are here with us today and who also assisted in asking questions. To thank everyone, to thank the Nersa team and also the interpreters and translators, camera people that covered these sessions, and also ABOCC who have been with us there, for those who need to sign language and to even make things much clearer. We thank you for the fact that you didn't interrupt, but you were just quite excited. We understand that. Thank you very much for your time and enjoy the weekend. You are invited for tea, and I think lunch will be served as well. You are welcome. Thank you, David. Enjoy your weekend.